Body cam footage of a Baltimore police officer shooting a 17-year-old with a gun. What we're learning from that new video tonight is that taking swift action against a brand new law in Maryland, what the future could hold for Senate Bill 1. And the Preakness is only 4 days away, but some say Pimlico is still in need of desperate improvements. Why construction is going to take even longer than promised.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Baltimore police have released the body cam footage of a police shooting of a 17-year-old last week. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. Tonight, police leaders break down what that video shows while the teen recovers in the hospital. Keith Daniels has the new video and developments.
Well, right off the top, the police commissioner said they don't have all the answers just yet, but he said they do understand, or rather he understands, all the scrutiny that's involved in this case. He took many questions, including what prompted that officer to engage with the teen in the first place. Now, investigators say the officer was actually sitting on a stoop with the teen, just talking with him and others, before the officer noticed the teen might be armed. Look at the video. That's when the officer approached the teen, who then ran away. The officer pursued. Now, at one point, the video shows the teen takes a weapon out of his waistband. The officer is heard ordering him to drop the weapon. At one point, circled here in red, the gun, look here, is seen clearly in the video, circled in red. Then police say the teen turned to look back at the officer, and that's when the officer fired his weapon. Investigators say he fired off at least 4 shots, striking the teen once. I asked the commissioner if he's satisfied with what he saw on the video.
Every police-involved shooting is an unfortunate incident. Every shooting and the harm to anyone is unfortunate. And so I will not say anything about whether I am satisfied, because it will be totally unethical for me to pass judgment before the end of it. And I would be not only undermining but corrupting the investigation.
Well, police say the teen was armed with a 9mm that was stolen from a car in 2021. Meantime, the commissioner identified the officer. His name is Cedric Ellaby. He joined the force in 2019. He's, per protocol, he's on administrative leave at this hour. The commissioner said this investigation is ongoing. Reporting tonight from City Police Headquarters, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, thank you. Well, after the shooting, Fox 45 reached out to a former officer to learn more about what goes into the decision to use force, especially when a suspect with a gun is involved.
There are a number of things, not the least of which being, you look for a bulge, you look for something in the belt. And keep in mind, you look for the actions of the person. You've been trained to look, okay, this is where a person puts a gun, this is how it looks when it sticks through their shirt, things of that nature. At that point, when they realize that there is a weapon, they understand it's a dangerous situation, and they have a right to act.
Well, this is the first police shooting in Baltimore this year. And new tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott's interim chief of staff is facing ethics questions over whether he failed to report all of his income to the city's ethics board. Prior to his current appointment, Marvin James worked in the mayor's office as well as a campaign consultant. According to state elections reports, he received thousands of dollars from 5 political campaigns. James is required to report those payments, but didn't, according to a recent ethics report.
You're talking about a city employee who is well paid with city taxpayer dollars, who also on the side is running 5 different campaigns. You got to wonder about his divided attention. You've also got to wonder about his divided loyalties. Is he working to make sure that these people are getting elected, or is he working for the city of Baltimore? It's a terrible conflict of interest.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel is continuing to follow these developments. He'll have a full report tonight at 10. Well, happening tonight, the NRA filing a lawsuit against the state of Maryland just moments after Governor Wes Moore signed Senate Bill 1. They say the new law is illegal under the U.S. Constitution. Senate Bill 1 mandates that starting October 1st, people with a wear and carry license from state police will be limited in where they can bring their firearms in public. The NRA saying their statement in their statement, that the bill will prevent law-abiding Marylanders from effectively defending themselves. The lawsuit not coming as a surprise, as there have been concerns surrounding the constitutionality of this plan. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost today asking Governor Moore about defending the bill throughout its potential legal challenges.
I know that you said the AG believes that it is constitutional. As far as it could go?
Yeah, well, I know the Attorney General has come back and said to us that he believes this bill is constitutional, that he believes that any form of legal challenge is not going to be sustained. I also looked at the merits of everything that we're trying to do to get both illegal guns off of our streets and also to make sure that we are understanding that constricting and dealing with the issue of firearms and gun violence in our community is going to be a priority for this administration. So that's why I felt comfortable moving forward.
Well, Governor Moore also signed a bill to raise the maximum penalty for first-time gun offenders from 3 to 5 years. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates pushed for that bill. He says he hopes to send a message to criminals with this legislation.
We recognize it's not going to change everything, but since that bill was passed, 26 people in Baltimore City have been murdered. So for us, we need to make sure individuals know they can and will be held accountable.
Approval, a small but essential first step in holding more offenders accountable. Bates says his administration will continue to fight for Baltimore's residents in the courtroom and through their partnerships with city police and state and federal agencies. Mary?
Guy, thank you. At this hour, Baltimore police say a body was found in northeast Baltimore near a school. Just after 2 o'clock this afternoon, homicide detectives say they found an unidentified body in a wooded area off Exeter Hall Avenue. That is next to the Stadium School. The medical examiner's office is performing an autopsy. This is currently a homicide investigation. Well, the Bel Air Volunteer Fire Department in action, putting out a car fire along Mill Road. Firefighter Gardner shot this first-person view as another crew member sprays water onto this car to put out the flames. Thankfully, no one was injured. Well, we are learning more about a fire this afternoon at Joppatown High School. The Joppa Magnolia Fire Department says all students and staff got out safe, and sprinklers quickly went into action, limiting any damage. Firefighters then finished putting out the flames and helped ventilate the building to let the smoke out. The Maryland Fire Marshal's office is investigating the cause of the fire. Well, the countdown is on to the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes. We were at Pimlico earlier this morning as final preparations were continuing ahead of this weekend's races, which includes a host of stakes races on Friday as well. It has now been 3 years since lawmakers inked a deal to bring $375 million in state investments to Pimlico and Laurel Parks, and to keep the Preakness right here in Baltimore. But horse racing fans will arrive again this year to a venue still in need of modernization. Fox 45's Amy Simpson taking a look at the race course and the timeline for redevelopment.
Plans to breathe new life here at Pimlico are delayed. In fact, we've learned there's no concrete timeline on when construction could even begin. Preparations underway inside Pimlico today. Tents lining the infield and horses seen out on the track this morning, with just 4 days until the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes. But for tens of thousands of visitors to the track this weekend, it appears to be the same Pimlico as last year, despite being 3 years removed from promises of hundreds and millions in investments to the facility.
It's getting a slower start than I think any party would like, but you can get one chance to get this right.
Those words ahead of last year's Preakness Stakes from the Executive Vice President of the Maryland Stadium Authority.
We expect to be in construction, I'd say late summer of 23 and completed by Preakness 26.
But that timeline is now being walked back. The Maryland Stadium Authority declined multiple interview requests to discuss progress on this project, instead sending links to its website, recent legislation extending Maryland's Horse Racing Act, and this Stadium Authority report submitted to state lawmakers in January. On page 7, the report acknowledges it previously said construction at Pimlico would commence no sooner than late summer 2023. But due to process and design delays and outstanding project prerequisites, this timetable is no longer realistic.
I actually can't give you a timeline. It's, there's a lot of work to be done. Everybody needs to roll up their sleeves and really, pitch in and share ideas and share concepts and figure out how we can close those gaps. It's an extensive project, and it's got a lot of twists and turns to it and a lot of complications. It's not a simple, build it and they will come kind of situation.
The executive vice chairman of First Racing and Gaming, another and Laurel Park, says the landscape has changed since the original legislation was passed in 2020.
Since then, we've had COVID. Since the law was adopted, we've had a situation where interest rates have practically tripled, which affects the amount of bond financing available.
The what's next for Pimlico appears to be headed back to the drawing board.
We need to sit down, figure out what the actual scope of the project needs to be based upon what the available funds are going to be. What's the best thing for Maryland racing, for us as a company, for our horsemen, and for the public.
And not only will this project take longer, it'll likely cost more too. That report from the Stadium Authority shared with lawmakers earlier this year said redevelopment here at Pimlico and Laurel Park could cost anywhere from $160 million to $350 million more than previously budgeted. At Pimlico, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
President Biden meeting with congressional leaders hours ago to continue debt ceiling talks coming up as urgency builds the major international trip he is cutting short. A permanent way to show your love of Old Bay. We speak to the brand's biggest fans as they inked their dedication for the iconic seasoning.
And an oh-so-nice evening for an Orioles game. 6:35 is when we start the game against the Angels, and hopefully a nice big win with maybe a spotlight shower or two. I'm going to let you know how much more rain there could be toward Preakness weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Another high-pressure meeting for President Biden and congressional leaders today about the nation's debt ceiling and how it needs to be lifted for America to avoid defaulting on loans for the first time in history. That discussion wrapping up just about an hour ago. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman joining us with the latest as he was monitoring the developments. He joins us with the latest live. Scott?
Yeah, Mary, a lot going on with this meeting between all of the high-level parties in the Oval Office, the president presiding over it. And what we determined after all of that, listening to all sides involved, is that you've got a Republican Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, saying that they're still very far apart on an agreement to raise the debt ceiling because he insists then you must also make budget cuts. The White House saying no negotiating, no concessions, raise that debt ceiling so we don't default, then we'll discuss a budget. So it would seem that they're in an impasse. However, Chuck Schumer, Democrat, came out, said, hey, look, I'm optimistic. We all agree that the gravity of the situation is too great to let us go over that fiscal cliff. So we have to come up with a solution, and we believe we're going to do that. So there is some confidence. The problem is, how do you get there? And the other issue, Mary, is even if you do get there before that supposed date of perhaps June 1st when we might default, and there's some wiggle room there apparently, but even if you get close to that date, there is a risk. We've seen that before where the nation had its credit rating dropped a bit because we threatened our own financial stability. That could happen again, and that's what they're trying to avoid. Whether or not they can do it, we don't know, but Kevin McCarthy did say he could see this working out by the end of the week, perhaps.
Yeah, we need a little compromise here for sure from both sides. The timing of this is another factor. The president expected to leave the country tomorrow to go to Japan. Is that still going to happen?
Well, that was the other big news today, Mary. It looks like, and sources have reported for the Associated Press, and then the White House came out and said, yes, we've had to change plans. They all day were saying we're reevaluating the president's needs to be where and when. And in the end, it was determined pretty quickly after that meeting that the president was going to still go to Japan tomorrow for that G7 meeting. However, he was going to cut it short, not stop in Papua New Guinea, not stop in Australia, and instead make sure he spends more time here in Washington, D.C., even if he's able to govern this from afar and take part in these talks from afar, as he is certainly capable of doing. The president can be mobile. We know that. It's still bad optics if you think, oh my gosh, we're looking at this fiscal disaster and the president's overseas. So he's going to be here. We'll see if that makes a difference. Either way, hopefully that optimism spreads.
All right, makes sense. All right, Scott Thuman live for us in D.C. tonight. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, take a look at this. What better way to show off your excitement for the Preakness than with a permanent commitment? Old Bay today offering free Old Bay tattoos in celebration of the race. Yep. FOX45 headed to the Baltimore Tattoo Museum earlier today, where the line wrapped around the block for a tattoo of the iconic brand. Some fans even lining up at 6 a.m. to secure their new artwork. They offered 3 designs: the Old Bay logo on a crab mallet, and a black-eyed Susan flower. Fans telling us they were more than happy to make their love of the seasoning last forever.
Because Old Bay is life, you know, it goes on everything. It's the best seasoning around. It's just amazing. And now, yep, and now I'm gonna put it on my skin.
Both of us are just kind of looking for our first tattoos. We love Old Bay. You know, only wings I like are Old Bay, so I figure, you know, why not go out and help support the brand? It's a free tattoo.
I think that is a really good first tattoo. Anyone who stopped by the event today was entered into a contest for 2 free Platinum VIP tickets to the Preakness. They can show off their new tattoos.
All right, taking a look at our Fox triple cast this evening. The Mile 1 Towson Camp, Toyota East Harbor Sky Camp, kind of gray and gloomy as you see our next weather maker moving on in. There's a couple of sprinkles and light showers on the HD radar, but really that's about the worst of it from Damascus down to Gaithersburg and Washington, D.C. to Laurel, maybe a couple of spritzes in the air. And really all you're going to have to do is probably turn on the wipers a couple of swipes at worst, as most of the activity is kind of being robbed down to our south, if you will. All the energy getting sucked away by some of these severe thunderstorms now moving into central and western Virginia, central and western portions of the Carolinas. And that's where most of that's going to stay. Then it's back to sunshine once again for tomorrow once this moves south and southeast of us, but drier and cooler weather. High temperatures only probably making it to the upper 60s to near 70. the next couple of days after making it to 82 today. With the clouds now, we're at 76 at Baltimore's BWI. Winds out of the west at about 11 miles an hour. Dew points or the measure of moisture in the air in the mid to upper 50s, so almost a touch kind of sort of muggy. You can feel the moisture more than we have over the past couple of days when it almost had a crisp appeal to things. And in the background, our traffic camera of a easily moving 695. Temperatures in the 70s right now, 76 here in Baltimore. We're at 77 at Chestertown, 75 at Westminster, and 73 at Frederick. Low to mid 70s south and west of the city where we have some more clouds. And even again, some of those showers approaching. It did rain today over at Deep Creek Lake and out toward Cumberland. That's where temperatures are in the 50s and 60s. South, it's hot, humid. North, dry and warm. So even once this weather maker comes through tonight into tomorrow, yes, it will cool down a bit. And yes, the storm systems will stay away, but no, it will not get that much cooler around here. It will probably be about 10 degrees cooler, which is still pretty nice for this time of year as we head on into tomorrow. Temperature settling into the 60s into the overnight hours. If you have a flight out, hour by hour forecast, Future Scan says a couple of light showers here and there through again about midnight. Thereafter, that moves south and east and away. And then for tomorrow morning starts off in the 50s. So pretty nice looking day to start, pretty nice to end as we make it up to about 70 degrees tomorrow. I'm going to let you know how much we may warm up and maybe wet down. My exclusive 10-day forecast as we head toward Preakness.
A new bill is on the table in Maine that would require public school students to get their parents' permission to change their name and pronouns. Mel Meyer from our Sinclair sister station in Portland has the story.
Lane is a transgender student in southern Maine. She told her family first, then her classmates in a video.
It was honestly the best day of my life because I could finally be myself at school. And it was just, I'm very lucky to be in a position where, you know, I've received so much support.
She knows not everyone gets that kind of response. It's one of the reasons why some people are against a Maine bill that would require parents' permission